are with another episode of Geeky Podcast, and we have already completed 20 episodes, which brings to a lot of success and a lot of journey. And I am the Chief of Research and Head Manali Chindarkar, and today I have with us Chandra Biswas, who is a researcher at the R&D department. Hi Chandra.
Hi Manali, thank you for having me here.
Yes, it's a pleasure that now the whole R&D team is on board doing these geeky podcasts. And last time we had discussed with Anagha about the circadian rhythm. And today we have a topic which was brought up as a query from an academy student, which was allergy sensitivities and tolerances. And this is when I asked Chandra to find out and write a blog on it so that the confusion is cleared. So I understand that it's a common misconception, or people often get confused between these terms, and we are here to bring some clarity onto it and understand what each of it exactly is, so that we don't use it interchangeably, because it absolutely changes the context, right? Yes. So how would you like to introduce us to the topic?
So even I used to use this food allergy, intolerance and sensitivity interchangeably without knowing the exact meaning. So now that I was researching about it, I got to know that there is a fine line between all these three things, and each term means differently in different context. So firstly, I would like to say ki there are certain foods that might be tolerable to me and not tolerable to you. So food like ghee, milk, then shellfish, soy are considered to be more intolerant to different people. So firstly, we come to food allergy. So yes, mostly we see IgE mediated allergic responses, and 80% of our allergies arise because of the protein content of the food and not because of the carbohydrate or fat. So basically what happens in IgE mediated allergic responses is that soon after the ingestion of food, the IgE antibodies are stimulated and then it is released. And what happens is that it binds to those food and then it will be transported to the mast cells, and then it will be transported to the basophils and the mast cells.
So basically the immune cells.
Exactly. These allergic reactions happen because of prostaglandins, then leukotrienes, which bind to IgE, and then it gives out clinical reactivity. So this was all about IgE mediated immune response. In what happens in non-IgE mediated immune response is that it is cell mediated, and then basically right after ingestion our T cells get activated, and that's when our T cells take in charge of all the immune responses.
Yes, got it. And when you said protein is what triggers, right? So I think we can observe it when we say people have like lactose or like allergies to milk products, right, or when we say gluten allergies. So the like gluten protein from the wheat or the casein protein from the milk products, I think that is what is causing the trouble, and which is why we also say that ghee or butter, like homemade ghee and homemade butter, is all right and it doesn't cause any digestive or immune reactions, right? So okay, so that brings us to what food allergies is. Can you list a few signs and symptoms which are observed in food allergies?
Yes. So I hope most of us have watched the series Friends, where Ross faced this allergy because of eating kiwi. So what he faces is that his mouth swells basically. So this is a food allergy and not intolerance or sensitivity. Right. So just like that, there are other symptoms also, like shortness in breath, and then you might have migraines, or there might be a headache. Right. So all this are included in food allergy symptoms.
Right. And as you said, it is immune mediated, and I have read this while understanding biochemistry, that allergies only get worse and worse when you are exposed to those foods. And Like you have to be very careful if the
Yes.
food that you're consuming has that allergen or not, and which is why nowadays food products have the allergen information given.
Right.
Because once you start exposing yourself more and more to the allergens, the reactions start becoming worse, and eventually it can be even fatal, right? Okay, and people have like many, like they know they are irritated by some foods, or not even foods. I think there are like dust allergies, pollen allergies, or some insect allergies, right? But people, when it comes to food, it is not quite clear if they are allergic, if they are intolerant, or if there's just sensitivity, right? And identifying that actually helps us to determine if the condition is reversible, because when we move ahead, I'm sure there are some possible interventions that we can go for. And when it comes to allergies, we have to be careful, right? So that brings me to the next section, which is food sensitivities. So how is it different from food allergies, and what it is basically?
So basically, in food sensitivity, what happens is that in case of food allergy, IgE was mediated, but in food sensitivity, IgG comes in to the play. So there is this big difference between these two. Like IgG will come into the play now, and after that it will cause inflammation is basically the defense mechanism of our body in with respect to infection. And there are certain symptoms just similar to food allergies, like you might have hives or same bloating. Then there might be you might have a problem in swelling, problem in swallowing food. So all these things come into food sensitivity.
Okay, so the differentiating factor here is the immunoglobulin, which is
Yes.
IgG instead
Yes.
of IgE,
Right.
as it was in case of food allergies. So I think the blood test, like studying the antibodies against a specific antigen,
Yes.
which is the food, will help us determine which exactly
Yes,
it is.
there is this patch test also done for specific people to identify if the person is having food allergy or food sensitivity. So in that case, if there is a food allergy, then we'll test for IgE patch
Right.
test.
Okay. And I think when it comes to the diagnosis, may it be patch test or like food allergy panels, like
Yeah.
whole panels are there to test if you are allergic to different foods. But that brings me to a precaution, which is there can be cross reactivity also,
Yeah.
right? So we used to do it for our clients earlier, but now we observe that because we are not like, we cannot take a reductionist approach here, because we are human beings, we have a lot of different foods together. So at times a presence of one food can give rise to irritation or intolerance to other food, right? So that is even the test results are not that reliable, because it can be due to some other food which is creating that irritation. So yes, any specific signs and symptoms when it comes to food sensitivity?
So certain signs and symptoms for sensitivity are almost similar to that of allergies, like fatigue, then bloating, and in some cases it might give rise to IBS as well, like
Okay.
irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay, all right. And I think then, yes, coming back to the solution, that there is only the one test that will help us differentiate
Yes.
between the two. Okay, then what brings us to food intolerance? Like, what is food intolerance?
So basically, what happens in food intolerance is that there is no activity of immunoglobulin with intolerances. It is basically our malfunctioning of the of our digestive system. Like there will be deficit of some kind of enzymes in our body. Say fructose intolerance, where our body cannot produce more aldolase B, which helps in the digestion of fructose. And likewise, there are other intolerances like lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance. These are basically because of this enzyme deficiency only. So
Yes. So there is no immune system involved here, and either the enzyme is not produced. There can be, I think, genetic mutations also,
Yeah.
which gives rise to total absence of those enzymes, and at times it can be deficiency of that enzyme production.
Right.
Okay, so in food intolerances, digestive system is involved, and
Yes.
it is like a digestive reaction instead of immune reaction.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so I think all the three terms are pretty clear. And when I saw, like, when I looked at the blog, I remember you've drawn a beautiful table which differentiates all three. So would you like to talk about that?
Yes. So basically, it was for myself that I can understand it more clearly, and with the help of the table, I mean, our viewers will be more clear about all these three terms. So in food allergy, we mostly look for the IgE antibody. In food intolerance, there is no immunoglobulin involved, and in food sensitivity, we see for IgG. These food allergies are very common in most of the people, and then the reactions take place very fast.
Okay.
And in case of food sensitivity and intolerance, the reaction takes place very slow, and like it will take you few days and few weeks to see the actual thing which is happening inside your body, and you might not even realize that the food you have eaten 5 days
Right.
earlier is actually causing you those kind of symptoms and signs.
So that helps me, and even in my case, if we talk about my personal case, I was suspecting sudden burst of rashes since my childhood, and there were on and off episodes. So firstly, like whenever I used to go to the doctor was like, you yourself, like you decide for yourself, like what is the food, like you identify, because there could be like any food allergy or it could be intolerant. That is upon you to decide and find out like what exactly is happening. Then like there were like many months, many years, and because we think, firstly we think it's allergy, and like you said, if there is like early onset, then we can identify.
Right.
But there were like mixed signals, like even in times when I had gluten, there was no rashes, and even without that, there were episodes of rashes. So yes, I think mine is the food sensitivity.
Yes.
Because there was like delayed onset. Like if I had like large quantities of foods that have gluten, there will be like delayed, like I will observe rashes, let's say a couple of days later or a week later. And there's also some tolerance that my system has. So if I have like pani puri or like one roti is what I have identified as my tolerable dose, I do fine with it. But if I am having like roti every day for every meal, like let's say 2 times a day, and then it will be like very evident, like the rashes will be very evident. So yes, that helps us identify like like where exactly we stand on that table, and it also like indicates how like our treatment or intervention should be, or how we can prevent it. And that also brings me to the part of leaky gut syndrome. So there could be like when we say our intestinal epithelium cells in the gut, if like they are in nature semi-permeable, which allows the passage
Absorption.
of nutrients, electrolytes, water into the blood circulation. But if their permeability increases due to some irritation, toxins, at those times these food particles, they seep into the blood circulation, and which are otherwise tolerated, now they are creating and now they're acting as allergens. So this is absolutely reversible. So if irritation or if intolerance to your food is because of leaky gut, then yes, that can be repaired. And once we do the interventions which help in sealing the or bringing the permeability back of the leaky gut, then yes, it is absolutely reversible, and you can then tolerate the same foods which irritated you earlier.
Yeah. So you have to make an episode where you don't actually have those food which triggers those signs.
Right. So elimination.
Elimination.
Yes, and as you said, so elimination, it also requires some patience and
Oh,
strict
yes.
elimination, because it takes time for our body to develop
Yes.
those symptoms, and there are gut bacteria which respond to particular foods.
Right.
So even if we are clean of that food, but still the bacteria that responds to that food is still there even after like weeks or days after the food has been eaten. So we have to give time for that bacteria to die off, and because otherwise it will keep creating disturbances. Any further remark that you would like to add?
Basically, certain food, you should be aware of certain food which might create or which might stimulate these immune responses in your body. So I'd like to specially say to our viewers that no matter what you eat, you should be always mindful of these things, because food allergies, you never know, you might have food, you might have allergy to a certain food which you have never eaten in your life, and
Right.
suddenly you eat it, and then you might have to run to a
Emergency.
emergency. And because food allergies are very quick responses, so
Yes.
it might be also life threatening at times. So always be mindful of whatever you eat. So I know it food is for flavor, but then also you must be careful of your health as well.
Yes, and the consequences are so
Oh, yes.
great and so immense that the people who are suffering, they will, like, it's not worth the flavor,
Yeah.
as you said.
Right.
Yes, so we discussed many precautions, and that brings me to add another one to it, which is cross reactivity, as I mentioned earlier. So cross reactivity is when a particular food is triggering or is initiating that irritation to some other food, right? So when we are suspecting anything to do with gluten, let's say, it could be because of seed oils that we are consuming. So if we withdraw, if we absolutely eliminate seed oils from our diet and then have gluten, then we have to observe that is it still causing the irritation that it used to cause earlier, or was it caused by seed oils?
Yeah.
Right, so that is one case. And I think when we talk about coffee, so we have done many episodes on coffee. There can be a long series on that. But even like coffee, like our response to coffee, it also depends if we are sensitive or intolerant to gluten. Okay, so because the gut is already irritated, it cannot stand gluten, it is creating that same response or agitated response in terms of coffee.
Yeah.
So people who have gluten sensitivity like me, they like respond to coffee in a very agitative manner, when there is like high palpitations or anxiety or like which is uncalled for and not expected. So yes, and I've also tried like coffee like without adding milk. Okay, so like black coffee doesn't give me that reaction, whereas coffee with milk gives me. So yes, I think cross reactivity is the answer to that. Okay, so yes, it was a beautiful episode with you, Chandra. And yes, we've discussed everything about food allergies, food sensitivities, food intolerances, and I hope the academy student which asked this question, all the answers, like it is cleared to you. And yes, we can take ahead many more questions like these. And if you would like to read more into what we are doing, what all research, updated research we are coming up with, we have some exciting announcement for you all. So Chandra, would you like to take it ahead?
So we have come up with the iThrive's Healer's Digest magazine. So it is about all the it will come out monthly, on a monthly basis, and will target one disease at a time.
Yes.
So there will be several blogs and research papers which we will be discussing very elaborately, and you can read them at your own pace. And there will be and we also have a fun section of quiz, so you can take part in that. And yeah.
Yes, and there are also recipes.
Yeah, there are also recipes.
Recipes, there are case studies. So whatever, like how we are addressing that condition at iThrive. So we have the practical functional nutrition approach to that. And we started with obesity as the January edition, and we've already worked on the February and March edition as well.
Right.
So we are in the making of the March edition, and it is only growing.
Yeah,
right? So all like there will be many more segments added to it, maybe sports, supplements, genetics. So like I would want to keep this Healers Digest magazine as a portal for us to interact.
Right.
Like share knowledge and bring about conversations, and you are always welcome to participate in those conversations, and we'll add the link to the magazine in the description, and you can go ahead and read it until you wait for the next edition. Yes, so to conclude this podcast, thank you, Chandra, and thank you all for listening and watching the episode. So go ahead, share, follow, like, and subscribe, and comment what you would like us to discuss later on. Thank you.
Thank you.